We are just under 1 week away until NFL free agency starts, and I could not be more excited. Welcome into the Packers Report, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Joey Petersen, and on today's show, we're giving you the latest free agency buzz from the NFL Combine. You know, it's one of those times of the year, there's few and they're far between, where all the beat reporters, all the big names, they're all together in one place, they share information, and they share it to us. That's what we're going over. Let's give you a little bit of a list of important dates to keep in mind. So March 4th, earlier this week, was the franchise tag deadline. I believe that was on Tuesday. Yes, it was. And then March 10th, this upcoming Monday, teams will be able to contact agents of unrestricted free agents. Then on March 12th, that's when the free agency signing and the trading period begins at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. All of that to say, it's about to get crazy, okay? There's about to be lots of moves that are going to be made. Whether they involve the Green Bay Packers or not, you better turn on those Twitter notifications because the NFL is about to shake up. And how that regards to the Packers, we'll have it all covered right here on the Packers Report. Everything we're about to go over is given to you guys from an ESPN Plus article. And ESPN, they make you pay $120 to read that content. Well, today, right here on the Packers Report, I got a great little thing for you. We're giving it to you for 100% free. So if that's not reason enough to hit that sub button, subscribe, join the over 1,600 cheeseheads we've already got with us on the channel. I can't think of a better one, okay? For free content every day on your favorite team in green and gold. Hit that sub button. Alrighty, let's get into it. The latest buzz coming out of the NFL Combine, what a ton of these reporters learned, especially when it regards to the Green Bay Packers and what they may or may not be doing. Let's start with Dan Graziano, okay? He said the Packers, who have been more aggressive free agent bidders in the Brian Gutekunst era than their reputation suggests, could be spenders this month. They're looking to add a veteran receiver to their very young room. And this is a must, in my opinion, okay? Because we've talked about it a ton. I believe this is a roster full of a lot of wide receiver twos, which I don't think is that bad of a thing, right? I think there's a lot of teams that might have that same problem, except theirs is filled with a wide receiver two and a couple of threes. Ours just happens to be our top three guys in that room are all wide receiver twos, and especially now with the absence of Christian Watson, right? He's not going to be with this team for the good majority of the season from that ACL tear in January, hoping for him to have a speedy recovery, but it's also, we got to realize, okay, we got a couple of wide receiver twos on this roster. One of them won't be available to go, so you must add. You have to add, okay? What say you guys? Do the Packers need to add a wide receiver this offseason? I think they do. I want to hear what you guys think. Want to know if you guys agree. If you do, give me a yes. If you don't, give me a no. So you look at the room and how it's shaped up right now. Again, it's not a bad wide receiver room. There are plenty worse across the National Football League. But when I look at those three guys right there, and all of the guys they've got behind them, and Wicks, Melton, Heath, Taylor, any of those guys, I see three faces that I don't know if I'd be super confident in if it's a playoff game, 3rd and 11, you need to pick up a first down, right? Do you feel confident in any of those guys? Just say, you know what, let's just feed them. Go get us that first down. Go make that play, because I don't know if I do. And I don't love going into a season where you believe you have to figure it out at quarterback, you believe you have it figured out at running back, and you're just missing a key piece at a very key position. So if you look at the free agent wide receivers, you see some pretty big names. However, a lot of those big names, like the Stefon Diggs, Keenan Allens, even the Davante Adams of the world, DeAndre Hopkins as well, they're aging. Right? They're getting older. They still got a lot of name value, but we don't know if they have a ton of value on the field. I love Davante Adams. We talked about him this week. I don't know if that's going to happen, though, because I believe he's going to follow Aaron Rodgers. So of those other names, I think Godwin is my favorite of all those options. Okay? I'm not too jazzed about Amari Cooper. I'm not too jazzed about Keenan Allen. I think a lot of those guys, DeAndre Hopkins, Stefon Diggs, I think they're going towards the tail end of their careers. I think Godwin is a guy who's still got a decent bit left in the tank. So do you bring in Godwin? Let's talk about it. He's 29 years old. He was having a career year in 2024 before dislocating his knee. However, he does play in a different type of offense in Tampa Bay, right? You're not going to get the same amount of targets. You're not going to get the same amount of receptions in this Green Bay Packers offense with Josh Jacobs in the backfield, okay? And he's a versatile player that can play either the Z or the slot for Green Bay's offense. Now, his projected contract is 3 years, $20 million a year, which sounds like a lot. It's a decent bit, right? It's a lot for you and I, and we're not going to see $20 million in forever unless this video gets like, 100 million views, Dilly? Maybe even probably like a billion views. I might be able to see some of that money, but I think it's worth it, okay? I really do. However, with that being said, I think I'd rather trade for a dynamic wide receiver. Just because that contract is worth it, in my opinion, $20 million for what receivers are getting right now, it's not that much. I'd rather trade and pay a guy a little bit more if I believe he's got more left in the tank and can be more of an asset to this team along the stretch and for the next 5, maybe even 7, 8 years, right? I think Godwin is a 3-year guy, maybe a 2-year guy. My dream is Garrett Wilson. Okay, now that might be a little bit of a lofty dream. It seems like he's probably staying in New York after them releasing both Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers. But man, I wouldn't be surprised if he wanted to leave. And if I'm Goody and I see that the Jets might be willing to trade him or that Garrett Wilson wants a trade out of New York, I would throw a lot at him and then automatically extend him. Okay, coming up, we got some more free agency news to get to. We got a ton more to talk about. Jair Alexander, Josh Myers. I don't want to give too many spoilers, but we got a lot to discuss. But before that, if you guys want the Packers to make a splash, okay, and let me tell you, getting Garrett Wilson would be a splash. Getting Max Crosby, Myles Garrett, those guys would be a splash. If you want that, go ahead, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button. Alrighty, let's get back to it. The latest buzz surrounding the free agency news from the NFL Combine. We got 2 things to talk about, and we're going to talk about them first off with a quote. This is coming from Dan Graziano, saying they'll, talking about the Packers, be looking for upgrades on defense too, especially considering they are listening to trade offers for cornerback Jair Alexander. And they'll have to find a way to replace center Josh Myers if he leaves in free agency. All right, let's get to these takeaways, but let's split them up one at a time, okay? Takeaway number 1. It really seems that Green Bay is legit about moving on from Jair Alexander, okay? Whether that's by trade, whether that's by release to save some money. I do think that they could get something for trade. I do think there'd be a decent bit of teams interested, even though he is making a decent chunk, okay? I think the Baltimore Ravens, Jacksonville Jaguars, Pittsburgh Steelers are the 3 top names to look at. I think Baltimore being number 1. He played with Lamar Jackson in college. They have a cornerback need. They have a cornerback issue, and Jair Alexander could come in and be a day 1 starter for that team. So there are pros and there are cons when dealing Jair. Let's talk pros first, okay? The money. If you deal him before June 1st, you'd save $6.84 million. And if you designate him post June 1st, that turns into like $17 million. Another pro. He's injury prone, right? We all know he's only played 7 games in each of the last 2 seasons. Played 16 in 2021, but then you go back to 2020, he only played 4. So he's not getting on the field much anyway, so might as well get some assets for him, save a little bit of money. Another pro, you could maybe get a 4th. I think from all the DK Metcalf trade discussions late last week, it was sounding a lot like Green Bay had a good feeling they could get something for Jair, right? So those are 3 pros, but as with every pros list, you need some cons, okay? The current cornerback room is, it's not great. Let's just call it as it is. Keyshawn Nixon, I love him. Like, I think he could be a really good player, and I think he has a lot to grow in. I think he's got a pretty good future, but outside of that, I don't know if there's a guy. Stokes is there as well. Like, I don't know if there's a ton of guys we have a ton of confidence in this roster to say, you know what, when we play the Bengals, I've got a lot of faith in you of covering Jamar Chase. That guy isn't on this roster, okay? Another con, it's a top-heavy cornerback draft, meaning that The majority of the talent is in the first one, maybe 2 rounds, and after that, it's a big drop-off, okay? So you'd have to spend your first-round pick, maybe your second-round pick, if you want to get a corner that you believe has a future in the National Football League, especially in year 1. And then number 3, you'd lose veteran leadership, okay? And as much as he might have ruffled feathers on his way out, I believe that these guys still look to Jair Alexander as a vet and as a leader of this team and of this defense. And if you trade him away, you'd be leaving that, okay? Let's go into takeaway number 2. I expect Myers to be gone in free agency, okay? And not on his own volition. I just think that there's a ton of teams that need a center. And as much as you might disagree, Josh Myers is one of the best centers available, okay? When you look at the top free agent centers on the market right now, Drew Dalman, like no doubts, no questions about it, is the number 1. Then Ryan Kelly, Bradley Bozeman, Josh Myers. In that order, however, I feel like you could switch Bozeman and Myers from 3 to 4, okay? And I know that he had his iffy play from time to time, and I know that nobody really is pounding the table saying, you know what, we got to get Myers locked up as quick as we can. No one's doing that. I'm not doing that. But I think a lot of teams would see a guy with 56 career starts and be all over it. Say, you know what? Let's go pay him. We might have to overpay him. Let's get a guy in here at center, a very important piece to an offense that we truly believe in. I think Myers might be gone. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Really do appreciate it. This was kind of a little bit of a free agency news dump, you might call it. Just trying to get you prepared for what next week might bring. It's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you don't miss a moment. Hit that sub button.